Hey everybody, it's PartyLeet, continuing the beginner's guide for Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2. Today we're going to talk about torpedoes, what they are, how to use them, how to dodge them, and if they're worth it. I've seen torpedoes brought up very often as a topic of much frustration, and I hope to clear out some of that frustration today. Just a quick reminder that if you'd like to see more guide videos, you should let me know with a like and a comment down below, and feel free to suggest topics or provide your own tips on the topic at hand below as well. Torpedoes come in a few different shapes and sizes, and each has its own uses, advantages, and disadvantages. Some factions will have them firing head-on and traveling straight until they collide with something, while others will have homing torpedoes, and others still will have torpedoes that fire in multiple directions at once, depending on the ship at hand. Without getting into specifics about the types of torpedoes themselves, I want to start off by pointing out what might seem a little obvious. Different torpedoes have varying degrees of effectiveness for various things. There are torpedoes that just straight up cause damage to the hull. There are those that are used to board the enemy ship, causing troop damage, and then there are those that can be used to cause damage and begin fires on enemy ships. Causing hull damage has the obvious benefit of working to destroy the ship. Causing troop damage has the benefit of reducing ship effectiveness and working towards hulking a ship. And then starting fires causes damage over time to both health and morale, and is especially helpful against enemy factions that have negative bravery. But none of this happens if the torpedoes don't land hits. The problem with torpedoes is that they can be very easily avoided. A decent admiral on the other side of the battlefield will be able to either dodge them by using maneuvers, or shoot them down by sending out an interceptor squadron, or simply by shooting them down with onboard turrets before impact is possible. In fact, if you're on the defending side, you should keep these three options in mind: dodge, intercept, or gun down. The last of these three options can get some extra assistance if you're in the brace for impact stance that helps the turrets on your ships out significantly in gunning down torpedoes as well as enemy squadrons, but that's a topic for a different day. On the attacking side, there are a few ways to overcome these defenses, and in some cases, you won't necessarily want to overcome them. The most obvious reason to use torpedoes is to cause damage to the enemy, whether it's troop damage, fire damage, or regular hull damage. In order to have the highest chance of success here, you're going to want to get as close as possible to the enemy without getting too close. Remember, the red portion of these lines indicate where the torpedoes aren't active. Once you're close, unleash the torpedoes and watch the guaranteed damage come through. This works best if the target ship is a wider target. That is to say, if you're firing unguided torpedoes that simply travel straight out the front of your ship, try and position yourself in a way like you were about to T-bone the enemy. A good way to do this is to use high-energy turns, when available, to quickly roll into this torpedo firing position when close to the enemy. With no time to react and little time for the turrets to gun down the incoming torpedoes, you're almost guaranteed to get hits across the board unless your opponent is able to literally teleport away one way or another. If you want to fire from a little further away, you might want to consider destroying your target's turrets first. Send fighter squadrons over and wait for their turret count to hit 0. And then you'll be able to use torpedoes from a slightly greater distance. I still prefer to get close if I'm trying to cause damage, as the spread often means that a good admiral can snake in between my shots or dodge them entirely if I'm too far out. Shooting from far away does have great uses though. Area denial strategies and tactics involve, as the name might suggest, denying your opponent access to certain regions of the battlefield. While it can be done in a few ways, good torpedo use is an excellent way to go about it. If you're coming in with a bunch of torpedoes, especially against a faction that is likely to lack turrets or squadrons to intercept them, you can use torpedoes right from the start to fire en masse and stop the enemy from entering certain zones, such as capture points that you want to get your hands on first, or that you want to prevent the enemy from capturing right away. With multiple ships firing torpedoes into the same area, you might even get a few hits in on an enemy with a middling amount of turrets and get some damage done nice and early. Fearing this, your opponent might try and dodge these shots, taking a detour rather than heading directly towards their original destination. Later on in the battle, if you've had the chance to strip an enemy ship of its turrets, it'll have to move in constant fear of mass torpedo barrages. Now this can be used to prevent access to not only control zones, but also gas clouds, asteroid fields, and optimal angles that your opponent might be trying to get to. It can also be used to direct the enemy into a funnel. For example, firing a torpedo barrage to one side might force the enemy to turn the other way, right into a ship of yours that is primed to ram, or right into a well-placed bomb. Scouting sounds like an unlikely use for torpedoes, but it is quite invaluable. Helpful against all stealth ships, but especially so if you're up against an opponent that is using stealth across the board. Firing a torpedo towards where you expect the enemy to be can result in two things. On the one hand, they might try to dodge your shots by using a maneuver that identifies them. On the other hand, if they choose to stay within the path of the incoming shots, the torpedoes will get shot down, and you might be able to guess where the enemy ship is placed and how many of them are there based on which torpedoes get shot down. Now, of course, by the time you're able to get to these areas for a scan, it's likely that the ship is going to move out of the way, so you'll want to keep some torpedoes in reserve to keep pinging enemy ships. Is this a foolproof method? Not at all. But if you're up against a fast enemy that is mostly hidden from you, this will at least help you get a rough idea of what your foe is up to. As you can see, torpedoes are not only very easy to use correctly, but they're also very efficient in multiple scenarios. If you've been avoiding using torpedoes because you never seem to land a hit, it might just be a matter of patience or utility. Torpedoes can cause a tremendous amount of damage to hull, troop, and morale stats when used well. Learn to wait for the opportune moment to strike, and then strike with everything you've got, because that's what being a great admiral is about. I hope this video was informative and helpful in your quest for greatness in Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2. If you have any tips of your own, please share them in the comments down below, and if you have any requests for topics, feel free to let me know down below as well. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all my channel members and patrons for supporting this channel on a monthly basis, and a massive thanks goes out to you for watching. Until next time, cheers.